He's moving. Some altcoins are starting to move more. Nvidia had a nice reversal. Near, bit tenser. Cash not so much. Yeah, so I think there's still room for alts to rally. It's basically we're in one of those phases where the market is not particularly attractive for longs, but you certainly wouldn't short it here. And these are the kind of bases where larger rallies can start from. Question is this the bottom? I guess we'll go back and look at total 3. Is this the bottom, or is there more downside to come? So you have potential in both directions. It's obviously been in a downtrend, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. And if we take off the bands, we zoom out and we look at this and just look at the market structure itself, the level that needs to break is up here, right? The early indication would potentially be a move above here, but this is, if it goes like that and closes, that's potentially low, high, higher low, higher high, but it wouldn't be trending structure. There's no impulse. It's still below the main swing high. So you have to be mindful that it can be still a bearish correction type of move here, like where it closes above, and even here or close above. You'd be much better waiting for some clear sign of strength, which would be like a move right through here, and then a higher low forming. So that would be your first big proper trend shift, and you're either going to see it pull back into a higher low or consolidate near the highs. And I think that if you're looking at total 3 as a guide, my eyes would be on this kind of 660 area. And then if you're looking at, you know, some of the previous coins like Render that had done well in earlier phases of the market, you know, if we were looking at these from back over the past few weeks, Render had a rally off the lows, come back inside. It's still back down in this bottoming area, and you would want to see clear new highs made above this level. So you want it to push up into this area, and then you want to see it pull back and hold, and then break its way towards, you know, many of these are just structurally bearish and have a lot of room left to move before they become even remotely bullish. Like, this is not really a great bullish setup. You know, you've had a full bull trend, you've had a lower high bounce, you've had the market decline all the way into the lows. This type of structure typically is just part of the bearish consolidation before lower, usually. It doesn't seem like a market that has gone through the phases and had a sufficient reaccumulation. So that would be one of the things I would say, is that many of these may be bottoming out, but they don't seem to have formed their consolidation yet. Some type of consolidation, rally, retest, whatever it's going to be, doesn't seem to have happened yet. So early signs potentially, but honestly, it just seems again like every time it bounces, it seems like it might be a bottom, and then it isn't. Of course, eventually that will fail, and it will just rip higher, because that's what it tends to do. That's literally what a disbelief rally is. I'm not... Bitcoin here, like, it broke structure on the downside of the weekly last week, closed lower. So this bounce, you would expect a lower high, but it wasn't a significant lower low. So it did break, but it's immediately bounced straight back inside. And, you know, I've said this over the past few months for BTC. You've got bearish and bullish. You've got taking out the all-time highs and rejecting. You've got a lot of selling. You've got ETF outflows for Grayscale. You've got billions of dollars being sold. You've got the inflows not matching, price going higher. All of the ETFs are underwater at this point, even still. If you put on this volume profile of the ETFs, you know, still the majority of all ETF trading is above price. And so still a lot to go here. I think the expectation of Trump versus Harris is still an important one for the market, and given that Trump's odds dropped a bit there after the debate, because expectations on Trump were really high. Harris is now back in the lead. Expectations on Trump were super high because everyone's like, Trump going to crush debates, he's always so good, Harris is going to be a retard, but it was all set up against him, and it was easy for her to look good and it was easy for him to look bad because he's got a lot to live up to. She had nothing to live up to, really, so it was always going to be easier for her to look good, to appear, to have the appearance of being competent. And some are saying that it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter what happens for Bitcoin in the election. Bitcoin's going to be fine anyway. I was like, yeah, well, long term Bitcoin is fine, but in the near term, the Harris, she wants to do stuff like taxing unrealized capital gains. That shit's terrible for something like Bitcoin. So I don't think you can be complacent to think that it doesn't matter if Harris wins. This is like the latest form of cope, where back a few months ago, whenever Trump was in the lead, clearly, and he was talking at the Bitcoin conference, and he was talking about how he wants to protect your rights as crypto holders and all that, everyone's like, yeah, let's go. Fuck Biden, fuck Harris, Trump's the boy, we need Trump to win. And as it gets closer and closer to the election, I start to see people like, oh, it doesn't matter who wins. I was like, no, it does. It definitely does. You can't reactively change your view on it because you don't want to admit that one candidate is worse or better than the other. If you look very simply at all risk markets, and you're looking for the most solid reason as to why the stock market is touching all-time highs and the crypto market isn't, well, the simplest answer is probably the correct one, which is that the election does really matter. They're both, the money that's being printed is the same, right? So if you're talking about money printing, money's money, and stocks are well above all-time high. Bitcoin has touched all-time high and is back below it. Let's actually look at total. Just look for the total market cap. Right, so total has made a lower high. Stocks have made a clear higher high. So total is the equivalent of here, which if you're using that as an analogy, then great. If Bitcoin has a strong rally through and the market has a strong rally through towards that, then we could see a continuation. But what are the factors here? There's been a bit of extra sell pressure on crypto. Mt. Gox and German government, all this stuff, we've heard about all this selling that's going on. All coins are struggling because tech stocks are more exciting, more interesting, more returns. So the market has been stuck, sort of, right? It's basically stuck in a place where there are more attractive options, and if there's a Democrat presidency, that really doesn't affect the stock market much, right? Because they're not openly attacking stocks. Now, taxing unrealized capital gains, if she actually goes and does that, that's really bad for stocks too. But crypto, obviously, it's perceived to be worse. So I think it's probably that simple. It does come down to a binary election decision. And what would change that? You would have to see some kind of outsized strong move from crypto before the election that holds to indicate that investors are willing to, they're confident again and they're taking on risk and they're buying but they're not selling. There's a lot of this at the moment. Every time it bounces, people try and buy again, but then it dumps it down, and it's the hold time is getting shorter and shorter and shorter as people think it's over, we're back, it's over, we're back. That whole fucking merry-go-round. And I think that it really just is as simple as that whether you like it or not, this next presidential, whoever gets elected, it really does matter. And sets up probably a where people are going to put their focus for the next few years. If Harris wins, you can expect more attacks on crypto. You can expect altcoins to just go into the gutter. And then people say, oh, well, meme coins will still do well. I've seen this a little bit. Like, well, when Biden was president, Bitcoin still went to 73k and meme coins still pumped. Meme coins are beta to Bitcoin. They don't go independently. Meme coins went up because Bitcoin went up. And so if Bitcoin goes up again, alts can obviously go up. There's a wealth effect. But I don't think it's fair to say, oh, crypto was fine during Biden's presidency. I mean, it's just been attacked left, right, and center. And a lot of the hope and expectation has been trying to price in a Trump win. So, all that is to say, I think you're probably going to see... I mean, it's not that far now. If you go over to November, it's only here. Look at my cursor. It's only there. You're only talking in the zoomed out view. It's only a few candles. So, does it need to go straight up, fucking boom, we're going to be at all-time high before the election? I don't think so. I think being anywhere around here in November and not lower is probably a decent result, where it has just more consolidation. And especially if it's like slowly building its way back up and getting above the bands, and the bands are green again, but you're not at all-time high, but you're sort of constructively building higher. I think that is, to me, that's probably best case scenario. I mean, obviously best case scenario is just going straight to the moon, but I don't really see why investors would come in and take massive amounts of risk before then. You got the rate cut coming next week. I mentioned this. I drew this path out ages ago where we had top or bottom on the two FOMCs. So we happened to have a top at the 31st of July, the last Fed meeting, and we did dump pretty much in that exact fashion. And we are putting in sort of this higher low going into the rate cut next week. So if that holds and you start to see it sort of grinding higher, that's a very good sign as well. That's definitely something that you want to keep front of mind and be aware of. And how that actually looks, to me, it would be to reclaim some of these levels from before. So if you're looking at how that path would actually move, I would want to see it. You've got especially this 60k area, 61, 62, which is the previous value area low. What you would want to see from BTC is a move through and then building up at the highs for a breakout. I think that kind of structure where it pushes back through to the other side, holds and builds up a base to break out going into 2025, I think that offers possibly your best bet. It's going to be, so if we don't go lower from here, the upside is not going to be as clean as previous trends, in my opinion, because when the market is still, most people who are around are still bullish. Most people still think it's a bull market. This is not the same as 2020. It's not the same as 2016 going into 2017 or 2020 going into 2021. There's far more disbelief back then. Most people weren't really aware of crypto in 2016-17, and certainly in 2020 and 2021, no one had ever seen it before. So at each stage, when there was big pumps, it was like pure disbelief still, even though there was a pump, because nobody could really believe how high things would go. Now it's like everyone's like, you haven't seen anything yet, hundreds of billions. The expectations are super high, which doesn't mean we can't go up. It just means that I think more of these moves will have longer corrections and deeper pullbacks along the way and a lot more choppy before getting to where it goes to. And I'm not even sure how big future breakouts will be. I mentioned like a while ago about, are we going to see this kind of stuff again without massive money printing? If there's some huge crisis and they print shitloads of money like COVID 2.0, sure. But otherwise, I think it might just be a case that it has these moves up and big corrections and you're sort of just grinding higher. And it's more of a difficult, obviously it's not going to go like this till 2027, but you get the idea that strong rallies will happen and the market will dislocate and you'll have 3 or 4 weeks of green, but then you'll have pullbacks and 3 or 4 weeks green and pullbacks, rather than I think what people are maybe expecting, which is like we just fucking go and it all shoots massively to the moon. play it as it comes, but that's where I'm at this morning and how we're looking. And that's it, GM. I'll see you on the live stream, altcoin requests. Let's see how dog shit the alts are looking this week compared to last week. Probably looking slightly better. Hopefully we can see some future trades setting up. GM.